Okay, we're rolling.
All right, welcome
Oh,
everyone to another reading of Lord Meher. Um, we will pick up from where we left off, which is in the year 1949. And Gene, why don't you go ahead and start the reading for us? Let us know what page we're on.
so this is page 2714. And this looks like a schedule. 6:30 a.m. Kaka to bring 2 buckets of warm water for morning toilet and take away the kerosene lanterns from the cabin. I guess this is Baba's cabin. Goher should supply 3 buckets. 7:45 a.m. Goher to give Kaka 3 slices of bread for Baba. 8 a.m. Kaka to bring tea and milk separately for 3 cups of tea for Baba with 3 slices of bread. After giving tea to Baba, Kaka should bring out from the cabin the drinking water pot to be cleaned. Goher should supply tea and coffee sets to Kaka. 8:45 a.m. Goher to give Kaka drinking water for Baba. 9 a.m. Kaka to bring drinking water in a clean pot. 10 a.m. Kaka to bring 3 buckets of bath water. 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Period of intense work and rest. 2 p.m. Kaka to bring coffee and milk separately for 1 cup of coffee for Baba. 5 p.m. Goher to give Kaka food for Baba consisting of rice and dal, and Kaka to take it immediately to Baba. 7 p.m. Kaka to bring 2 lighted kerosene lanterns, 1 for Ganpat and 1 for the stand in the antechamber of the cabin. Kaka should keep 1 matchbox on the stand and give 1 matchbox to Ganpat. Kaka had to take the required items to Baba's cabin at precisely the fixed times, knock on the door, and wait for Baba's clap to enter. He was also to clean and sweep the cabin and make Baba's bed when Baba called for this purpose. For the first few days, despite being conscientious, Kaka committed a few mistakes and Baba scolded him. Baba would ring a bell whenever he needed Kaka, and poor Kaka would be on the move for 16 hours, from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., without a minute's rest, as Baba would call him at any time. From his seclusion, Baba instructed Baidul, Babadas, and Pandoba through Kaka to bring 21 poor people to Meherzad so that he could wash their feet and give them money. Adi Sr. was to coordinate the work, and Sarosh was to supply a bus to transport them. On Sunday morning, 26 June 1949, Baidul brought the 21 poor people at 10 o'clock. Kaka had arranged warm water, soap, and towels inside the seclusion area and led the 21 men inside. No one else except Kaka was permitted inside. Baba washed and laid his head on their feet and gave each 10 rupees. The work was finished in just over an hour, and they left at 11:10 a.m. with Baidul. Kaka cleaned up the area. Anve, do you want to read today? We haven't had you read it. I don't think it'd be a nice change for us. Oh, sorry. Damn, what happened? I mean, Baba, what happened?
Yes, I can read it. Sorry, I was muted. Just let me know where should I start from.
Top of the page.
2715. Final must work. Prelude to Thunder. Baba would not normally ring for Kaka between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. But on the night of 27 June at about 9:50 p.m., Baba suddenly rang for him and gave him instructions on for the men on watch not to make any noise, to be alert. Again at midnight, Kaka was called and Baba complained of being disturbed. Throughout his seclusion, Baba was not able to sleep for more than a few minutes, and Kaka was not allowed to sleep either. On Tuesday, 20th or 28th of June 1949, Alicia was brought to Merazat from Mehrabad at 9:30 a.m. Baba gave him a bath inside the cabin enclosure at 10:25 a.m. Kaka assisted Baba in giving the bath, and Baba then worked alone with the mosque for 40 minutes. Kaka was called
An-
and Baba
Anve, excuse
yes,
me, sorry to interrupt. Could you slow down a little bit?
yes.
Thank you.
On on Tuesday, 28th June 1949, Alicia was brought to Merazat from Mehrabad at 9:30 a.m. Baba gave him a bath inside the cabin enclosure at 10:25 a.m. Kaka assisted Baba in giving the bath, and Baba then worked alone with the mosque for 40 minutes. Kaka was called, and Baba requested food for Alicia, which was bought. Baba fed him, then sent him back to Mehrabad. Jal Keravela was staying at Merazat throughout Baba's seclusion and kept a diary. Meherji and Nariman had also been called back, and they arrived that day to stay for a month. Arnavaz accompanied them and stayed with the woman Mandli. Thus, beside the servants, Jal, Meherji, Nariman, and Kaka were the only men at Merazat during the seclusion. The blue bus had been placed directly under a neem tree, and that night Baba rang for Kaka at 10:20 p.m. and complained that the neem tree's small berries were falling on the roof of the bus and disturbing him. At 11 p.m., he rang again for Kaka and repeated the complaint. On 29 June, Baidul, Babadas, and Pandoba brought five mad and two must, named Sadba and Bhagwan, to Merazat. According to Baba's revised instructions, the seven men were taken inside the sealed off area where Baba gave them each a haircut and a bath. He dressed them in new shirts and luan clothes and presented them with sweet. But one of the five mad turned out to be a beggar, and this upset Baba, and he re- re- reprimanded Baidul. At 3 in the afternoon, Baba sent this stern message to Baidul through Kaka. I am surprised. I am surprised at the way you have done the work of selection, done the work of selecting the mad and the must for me this time. This has brought always thoughts in my mind about you, and may God forgive me for it. I forgive you for your mistakes and want you need to feel upset about it and to remain cheerful. Jai Baba. Should I continue?
Oh, yes, please. Thank you. And that pace is pretty good. You can even slow down even more.
I will try. I will try. 2716. Final must walk. Prelude to Thunder. The eighth day of Baba's seclusion, Thursday, 30th of June 1949, was the busiest day so far. The first pace was coming to an end, and Baba was to begin his intensive spiritual work. And and start fasting the next day. So certain additions and alterations had to be completed in the cabin and enclosure before sundown. Since no one was allowed inside the seclusion area, Kaka had to work single handedly as a carpenter, as a mason, as a coolie, as a sweeper, orderly, and engineer. Kaka even climbed the neem tree over Baba's cabin to remove the small berries with a long pole so that Baba would not be disturbed by their falling on the roof. While Kaka was busy in the cabin and enclosure area, Nariman and Meherji were given other work according to Baba's wish. Kaka bought them Baba's coat and told them to tighten its cloth bands, which were strung from side to side and from head to foot, woven together across the woolen frame in lieu of springs or a platform. After the men had spent 2 tiring hours of pulling and tightening, Kaka returned, and after inspecting their work, pronounced that the bands were still too loose and must be tightened all over again. Jal Kerawala joined in, and each one pulled and tugged at the cloth. Some of the bands were so old that they broke. While they were engaged in this task, Baba sent them this message: the real pleasure lies in making strong what is really weak. Jai Baba. At 8:30 that evening, Kaka came out of Baba's cabin with his final instructions for the second phase of his work, which started the next day. Baba stated, "Mm, the next period of 21 days is extremely important, and everyone in Mirazar should do his duty faithfully. A unique opportunity of serving me is being offered." Kaka looked exhausted as he took Jal, Nariman, and Meherji inside the enclosure to show them where they were to sit while on watch. Baba was inside the cabin with the curtains drawn and was not visible. From Friday, 1st July 1949, the second phase of Baba's great seclusion began. For one thing, all of Baba's mandli at Merazad, Ahmednagar, and Mehrabad, as well as his close lovers and followers everywhere in the world, were to keep silence for the entire month of July. If any visitors were to come to Mehrabad during this time, they were to be answered through writing. Thus, Baba allowed his lovers throughout the world to share in his universal work. Jai Baba.
Jay Baba, thank you so much. Mona,
Yeah. Jai Baba.
Mona, could you unmute and continue, please?
Sure. From the beginning of the page,
Yes.
although externally Baba was physically secluded, inwardly his presence was felt more than ever as their attention was focused on him. The watch duty and daily schedule were also changed at this time. There were to be no fixed times for supplying anything to Baba. Kaka was instructed not to go to the cabin unless Baba rang for him, except for bringing him lanterns at 7 p.m., since there was no electricity at Merazad at this time. Baba stated that he would fast and not need anything except drinking water, honey, and very weak tea without milk occasionally when he would ring for it. The watch hours were divided as follows, with Nariman and Meherji alternating days. 9 p.m. to midnight, Nariman or Meherji on alternate days, and Eknath. 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., Gangpar. 12 a.m. to 4 a.m., Ratan Shah Gyara. 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., Kaka Barya. Jal Kerawala was to relieve Kaka for 2 hours daily from 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. and from 4 to 5 p.m. Each of the watchmen was ordered not to make the slightest noise, nor move from his seat or look at the cabin. Even when Baba tapped on the cabin, they were to silently go to Kaka and summon him to Baba. On July 1st, after drinking coffee and eating a few slices of bread, at 6:45 a.m., Baba's fast began. Taking only weak tea the first day, Baba entered the cabin at 9 a.m. To begin his work and stayed inside for 5 hours. The atmosphere was surcharged with a silent joy, and the only sound discernible was the rustling of the wind. At 2 o'clock, Baba rang for Kaka, had his bath again, had his bath and again entered the blue bus. On July 2nd, Baba, fasting on water, spent a considerable part of the day inside the bus. The night That night, Meherji was on watch from 9 o'clock to midnight. He heard strange noises, as if someone were hissing inside the bathroom. When Baba began snoring at 10:30, the sound stopped. At 11:55, Meherji suddenly heard heavy footsteps inside the cabin, and then Baba's snoring and the footsteps both stopped. At that moment, he heard Baba get up from his bed. Baba's seclusion and fast continued the next day. It was marked when Baba accidentally hit his head several times emerging from the low cabin door. A strong wind was blowing, which also disturbed him. Narvan kept watch that night of 3rd July from 9 p.m. to midnight. But the next night, their fixed times changed. Narman and Meherji were to be on watch alternating from midnight to 4 a.m. Baba fasted on water for the entire day and night of 4th July. On the 5th, he began drinking milkless tea with honey. At 6 p.m. that day, Kaka reported that Baba was complaining of nausea, probably because of the honey. Jal, Nariman, and Meherji pressed Kaka for more details of Baba's workings and seclusion, and Kaka, as they all were observing silence, scribbled on his slate. Ram is taking stock of things in the world from his citadel. Kaka then wrote, I'm really not fit to be even a particle of dust of the bastard's feet, and it is his infinite kindness and love only that he gives me the opportunity to serve him a little. On the morning of Wednesday, 6 July 1949, Baba took 2 teaspoons of honey and 2 teaspoons of coconut water at 8 a.m. Later that morning, he dictated certain instructions for the Mandli at Mehrabad. Honey and coconut water were again taken at noon, and also at 2 p.m. Baba also drank a glass of weak tea without milk at that time. At 4 o'clock, he sipped 2 teaspoons of honey and 2 teaspoons of coconut water. But at 8 that night, he vomited as his sensitive stomach apparently could not digest the honey. On 7 July, Baba fasted on tea without milk taken twice and 2 glasses of buttermilk also taken twice that day. At 11 a.m., Kaka came out of Baba's cabin and wrote on his slate for Jal Kariwala, Meherji, and Nariman. You men will not get such an opportunity again in your lives. So make the most of the time at your disposal. Baba has dictated the following for Jar's diary. The flow of my thoughts continues day and night, during sleep as well, and when I'm awake for 24 hours, it continues. Thoughts of God come, thoughts of Maya come, good thoughts come, bad thoughts come, desirable thoughts come, undesirable thoughts come, pure thoughts, impure thoughts, thoughts of my men and women Mandi, thoughts of the world, thoughts of the entire universe. But when there is specific work for me, then there is no definite time for it. During the day, it might be half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, or some days I do not have to work at all. It is like this. I'm so arranging it that during that time of my working, Kaka might not cause some disturbance. As age explains, it is evident from Baba's remarks that during the period of his seclusion, he was working for his Mandali lovers and the whole world. In the universal mind of the avatar is contained the finite mind of every soul in creation. And the universal mind is fully aware every moment of the thoughts of every individual mind. During this period, Baba's work was concentrated on individual minds whose thoughts reached his universal mind. He was expressing this when he made that statement. There were rain showers at noon, but the sky cleared by evening. Again on the evening of 7th July, Kaka brought this message from Baba. Buttermilk was taken twice a day, but there is still burning sensation, and even water cannot be taken. First, there are thoughts. Secondly, the spiritual work has to be done. Thirdly, the fast. And along with these, there is this burning sensation altogether. On Friday, 8 July 1949, Kaka brought the following message at 11:30 a.m., which he wrote on his slate. Baba has sent word that he is taking no food and constantly thoughts come to him. He sits in the cabin. At night, he's uncomfortable on the bed. The cabin roof strikes his head daily, but totally the upper portion of the door of the cabin struck him so violently that he fell giddy. At noon, Baba sat in the adjoining room and motioned to Kaka to clean his cabin. 15 minutes later, Kaka came out of the seclusion area, which is dictated with this dictated message. Do not give these knocks on the head any supernatural interpretation, as our dear old blessed Chanji would have done out of his deep underlying love for me. These hard knocks on the skull show us how brave the real yogis must be who live in dark, low rooted caves in remote wild jungles. At 5 p.m., Baba drank a little rose syrup mixed in buttermilk, a little water and juice from black grapes. These past 9 days during the second phase were to be the most crucial period of Baba's seclusion. Baba later revealed no one except myself, and God knows what I went through during those 9 days.
Thank you, Mona. Pia, are you reading today?
No, she's not
Pia?
reading today. She's not reading today.
Okay. How about you, Eva?
Yes, I am reading today. Starting here on the top, right? On
Correct.
Sunday, 10 July 1949, Baba broke his fast with a little rice and chutney at 11:40 a.m. Gustaji came with Ali Shah from Meherabad, and Baba's work with the must began. Ali Shah and Gustaji were to stay at Meherzad, and Gustaji was also allowed to see Baba. They stayed in Don's room adjoining Baba's bathroom. Mera and Mani were also called to see Baba for half an hour in the morning. Baba gave instructions which Mani was to type, the gist of which was, out of the 40 days of seclusion that Baba is enduring, 31 days are to be spent here in the cabin in Meherzad. For the remaining 9 days, however, Baba wishes to have a complete change of environment. He wishes to be away for 9 days somewhere else and then return here for the last 7 days and resume his seclusion in exactly the same way as he is now doing. This 9-day seclusion in a different place will be as strict as it has been here, with the difference that Baba will be free from the work that he has been doing in seclusion here. This change will be for the purpose of removing the terrific weight of work Baba has been under in seclusion until now. Erich was therefore sent instructions to find some suitable place for Baba near Pune. Baba also dictated duties to those who would be left behind in Meherzad during his absence. In the middle of the night, at about 3 a.m., Jal Karawala woke up, having heard a knocking sound coming from Baba's cabin. Baba had slept for barely half an hour at midnight. Meheraji had been on watch and said Baba was snoring from 12:30 to 1 a.m. Ganpat said that at 1:25 a.m., he heard Baba making some noise inside and saw the light go out. Again at 2:30 a.m., he heard Baba's footsteps within the bus. Kaka was called at 3 a.m., and Baba directed him to ask Meheraji if he had heard any knocking before 3 a.m. Meheraji said he had not heard it. On 11 July, Jal, Meheraji, and Nariman began reading certain selected passages from spiritual books to Baba. They too were on silence and were only to speak while reading to Baba for an hour every day. At 10:30 a.m., Jal read a selection from the Upanishads. Meheraji read out a passage from the Dasatir, the holy book of Zoroastrians. In the afternoon, in a Christian vein, Nariman read about Friar Juniper, a follower of St. Francis of Assisi, and also read other selections from different Christian mystical books and footnote. Don had been informed at Meherabad to mark certain portions of books he had on Christian spirituality. Adi Sr. collected the books and delivered them to Nariman. Later that evening, this message was received from Baba. During my seclusion, Kaka has worked hard and wholeheartedly from morning to night, seeing to every detail of countless duties for me, also managing household affairs of the Mandali and seeing to the bazaar of the women Mandali through Gohir. Although infinite restlessness is my constant companion, I have never been so restless as from July 1st to the 9th in my present seclusion. Like everyone else, Kaka had been on silence since the 1st of July. He did not know how to write in Marathi, and the servants could not read Gujarati. Despite that, Kaka had to give them orders, and it was a very difficult but often amusing situation, seeing Kaka and the servant boys huddled over his slate, trying to decipher what he meant to convey. At 8 p.m., Kaka was trying to explain to the servants their duties while Baba would be away. Yet he forgot to tell them the most important part, that Baba was actually leaving. Everyone had to be reassembled, but Baba later sent word. The trouble was not due to Kaka's mistake. It was my own work which was responsible for it. I was angry with Kaka, but it is my weakness to get so upset over such a trifling matter. Nariman was on watch during the night, and Baba rang for Kaka twice. When Kaka came, Baba would ask him questions, such as, "Who was knocking on the door? Did you hear that noise? Find out its cause. Ask the watchman if I slept and for how long," and so forth. On 12 July, from 11 to 11:30 a.m., Jal Kirawala again read passages to Baba from the Upanishads, and MEHER from the Dasitar from 11:30 to noon. Nariman read from some books on mysticism in the afternoon. MEHER was on watch that night. There were again several knocking noises, and Kaka was twice summoned during his sleep to investigate the matters. Both times he found nothing. The same schedule was maintained on Wednesday, 13 July 1949, which was the last day of the reading phase. MEHER read again from the Das Sitar from 10:30 to 11:20 a.m. and Nariman from 11:20 to 12:10 p.m. Jal Kirawala was asked to read Baba's own divine theme of creation at 1:50. They would all go inside the cabin enclosure together and read from outside the bus. Baba stayed inside the bus, and no one could actually see him. Nariman was on watch that night.
Thank you, Eva.
You're welcome.
Marilyn Joy Cedas, are you reading today? You're muted.
Okay, I can read it. It's Marilyn Joycitis.
Citus, thank you. Now, is Citus the American pronunciation or the Spanish?
Let's save the discussion till after the reading.
I'll tell you, it was changed from SEI. It used to be SIDES. My grandfather in France had it as sides, SIDES. You know, when they immigrated, they changed it. They added the E for some reason. So where are we anyway? Let's see.
Top of the page.
Adi Sr. arrived at Merazad at 10:30 a.m. on 14 July. He would drive there every day at 3 p.m. with the mail, so it was unusual to see him so early. He brought news that Erich had succeeded in finding a suitable house on Pune Mahabaleshwar Road, and Baba had a telegram sent to Erich to finalize the matter. Eknath was on watch from 9 p.m. to midnight. A snake was seen at 11 p.m. crawling on the steps of the blue bus cabin near Baba's sandals, which Baba removed before entering the cabin. The snake was a poisonous krait, Krait, and it was killed. MEHER was on watch from midnight. During these past few days, Baba had been working with Ali Shah every day. He would give the must tea and bread in the morning and feed him in his room at 4 p.m. Gustaji looked after the must, and he seemed to understand Gustaji's sign language. Through though sometimes Ali Shah would laugh at him. On 15,
Marilyn, is it possible to get closer to your mic? You're a little faint.
I'm going to make
Oh,
I'm
much
going to make
better.
it louder. On 15 July, Gustaji came out of the enclosure at 12 p.m. and gestured that Baba was working with Ali Shah in seclusion. Baba would bathe the must once a week on Thursday, but Baba washed his feet and worked with him every day, sometimes for an hour, sometimes less. There was no fixed time when Baba would work with him. He did it any time. On the morning of Saturday, 16 July 1949, Baba was to leave Meherazad. The evening before, thick clouds gathered and the sky shed tears at Baba's suffering. Baba sent word to Jal, Meraji, and Naraman. Be extremely careful in discharging your duties to the best of your ability during my absence. Maya is tricky, so you must be very watchful. It rained the whole night, and the next morning, Age thought the sun seemed hesitant to rise because of Baba's departure. At 7:30 a.m. on 16 July, Adi Sr. arrived with his Buick and drove it near Baba's cabin. All those at Meherazad went to their rooms and shut their doors as per Baba's orders so that no one would see him. The servants were also ordered to stay inside until Baba was driven away. Kaka was to accompany Baba, and before leaving, he handed the key to Baba's cabin to Merji, who had been told to look after it in Kaka's absence. Is this the next passage? Baba wore a cheerful smile as he got in the car and then left with Kaka, Gustaji, and Ali Shah, driven by Adi Sr. A jeep driven by a driver named Gafur followed with the luggage. There's a footnote. The jeep was probably supplied by Sarosh along with his driver who returned to Ahmednagar with Adi. It was time, with Adi Sr., and then came again when was time to leave. All right, thank you. Adi blew the horn as the car crossed a small bridge over the drainage ditch, signaling that those at Meherazad could come out of their rooms. Mera, Mani, Meru, Goher, Rano, Narina, Elizabeth, and Anavas were also staying at Meherazad during this time, but except for Mera and Mani, none of the others had seen Baba for the last month. They had been staying near God, yet were away from him. Though they were kept at a distance, he was drawing them closer. Who can fathom this apparent contradiction? Baba arrived in Pune at 10 that morning. Erich had rented Rao Badur Thub's bungalow situated at Parvati Hill, about a mile off the Panchgani Road. Baba had specified that the house be secluded and have ample acreage of open land around it for taking walks without being seen. Thub's bungalow and property satisfied those conditions. The Buick and Jeep were left for Baba's use, and Adi and Gafu returned to Ahmednagar by train. Baba permitted Erich to remain with him and also sent for Ghani and Jalbai. All three were on silence, but Baba allowed them to speak in his presence during his seclusion there. About his recent confinement at Meherazad, Baba remarked, Staying in the blue bus cabin was troublesome for me, with its small door frame on which I was constantly bumping my head. The adjoining room was vacated, but there was a strong breeze outside, parentheses, which Baba did not like as he moved between the cabin and the room. I have accomplished several heavy spiritual tasks at other places, such as Angiras Rishi Hill, my tomb at Meherabad, and the Panchvati cave. The burden of the work was always heavy, but the place of confinement was never as uncomfortable as the blue bus cabin. Baba explained the purpose of his visit to Pune. After my arduous work for 19 days at Mirazad, I wanted to relax and yet continue the work begun. With that end in view, I chose new surroundings, new companions, and a change in the type of work I was doing. At Mirazad, there was no rain as long as I was in seclusion, and now I have come out of it. And now that I have come out, it has begun to rain there.
Thank you, Marilyn. Marvin.
Okay, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Pune, likewise, is suffering from squally weather, which will continue for some time. And this hilltop particularly seems noisily windy. As is always the case, you can see how Maya tries to thwart and obstruct my working. If this weather continues, I shall either have to go into seclusion in a room upstairs in this bungalow or go back to Merazad. Baba's tentative schedule for his stay in Pune was as follows: 2 hours of work with Ali Shah and local musts, 2 hours of light talk, discussion, reading and playing cards, and other games with Gandhi and Jalbai, 2 hours of seclusion, 2 hours of walking in the jungles or on the less frequented roads. At 4 p.m. dinner. That evening, Baba discussed with Gandhi about the world situation and also about the bad weather. Jalbai and Gandhi were asked to relate humorous stories to lessen Baba's burden. At 8:30, Baba retired for the night. On Sunday morning, 17 July 1949, Baba stated that he had slept well the previous night and felt refreshed. Erich and Jalbai went into the city soon after 7 o'clock to bring a must to Baba, as per instructions given the previous evening. Gandhi read some ghazals to Baba while they waited for the must. When Erich arrived with the must, Baba began working with him. The must's name was Keshav, and he was found opposite the Pune railway station, near the Green Hotel, living in a public urinal. However, Keshav was a revered figure in Pune. He would rarely leave his stinking abode and was transported with extreme difficulty. At first encounter, he stank and was repulsively filthy. Baba wished to bathe him, but as soon as this was attempted, the must would not allow Baba even to touch him. Keshav uttered, "I am like your son. I won't allow you to touch my feet." Erich, Kaka, and Gustaji did their best to persuade him to be cooperative, but Keshav struggled, yelled, and repeatedly asked to be driven back home. Baba agreed and motioned to Erich to bring the jeep. The must got in, and the men continued their entreaties while Keshav was seated inside. After a long while, the must allowed Baba to pour a little water over his feet as he sat in the jeep. He then became mild, and Baba gave him tea, milk, and bread. The must asked for 1 rupee and a warm coat, and these two were given to him. Baba then worked with him in seclusion in the jeep and send him back to his abode. Footnote: Keshav died a month later on 18th of August. Baba emerged very happy over the successful contact with this highly advanced must and related to the mandali. If I really like anything, I like two things: musts and children. I like musts for their strength and children for their helplessness. The fire of love is very, very painful and must present a challenge to God, the beloved. It is a perpetual tug of war between the lover and the beloved. Ghani asked, why do so many musts choose dirty and unsanitary surroundings? And how is it that their health is not affected? Dictating on the board, Baba answered, the musts, as I said, because of the terrible fire of their love, present a challenge to the beloved. And this challenge, that the beloved should manifest himself, is always accompanied by heroic efforts to achieve total self-elimination or egolessness, efforts that may take many forms. To live in dirty surroundings, such as in or near a latrine or a urinal or a dustbin, is one way of utterly forgetting the bodily existence. And the beauty of it is that when the body is utterly neglected or forgotten due to being steeped in love for the divine beloved, the body does not deteriorate, but takes care of itself automatically. The minds of ordinary people are constantly busy looking after their bodies, but they find that in spite of taking every kind of precaution and care, deterioration can never be avoided altogether. Kabir has said, discard the body, it remains. Preserve the body, it goes. And so the astonishing fact emerges that the corpse eats up death. Corpse meaning the uncared for body. It is not given to everybody to be a lover of God. Such lovers are so consumed in the fire of love that they are not conscious of their stage of spiritual progress, and they do not have any thought of union with God. They simply enjoy the pain and torture of love and long for more and more of it. These lovers do not have any thoughts about their separation from the beloved, or, as I said, any thoughts of union with him. They are perfectly resigned to the state in which they find themselves. And when their resignation reaches its climax, it is the beloved who seeks union with them. Hafiz has said, separation and union are none of your business. Seek only to resign yourself utterly to the will of the beloved. Baba was in a splendid mood after working with Keshav and asked Ghani, which is more difficult, to give up one's life or to lose one's life? Ghani replied, to lose one's life is harder. Baba agreed and further explained. In pursuance of name and fame, and goaded by the applause of the expectant multitude, people have given their lives for a great cause, for their honor, their religion, their country. Even cowards have given up their lives under a sudden impulse or an uncontrollable provocation. Such a death is a matter of a few seconds. But to lose one's life is to die by inches. Every second one suffers the poignant pain of ego elimination, culminating in utter resignation to the divine will. This dying can only be the lot of heroes, and there are very few indeed. Keshav Must is one such hero. Ghani then entertained Baba from 11 to tea time by reading from the works of Urdu poet Simab. We have a footnote here. Simab Akbarabadi, died in 1951, was born in Agra. Over his lifetime, he wrote many books and published and edited a journal of poetry. One of his couplets is, Lord, devotees go to the Ganges to purify themselves, but the Ganges flows to your feet to be purified. After meals at 4:30, Baba and his companions left by car for a Sunday drive toward the racetrack and further on toward Hadaspar village. When they returned to Tubi's bungalow, Baba chalked out a schedule which he stated he would adhere to, rain or no rains, until he returned to Meherzad. Two mad, musts, or utterly destitute people to be brought to Baba daily in the morning to be bathed, fed, and clothed. Between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m., Baba is to be entertained by Ghani reading, reciting, or talking on light topics. Baba will sit in seclusion for 2 hours in the temple on top of the hill, about a mile from the bungalow. Baba will walk to the temple and back, obviating the necessity for his evening walks. After meals, Baba will engage himself in discussing matters with the mandali or entertain himself playing cards. Baba will continue sitting with Ali Shah daily, bathing and feeding him. On Monday, 18 July 1949, Jalbai, Erich, and Ghani left in the morning to bring 2 musts or mad. Baba himself walked to the temple to look at the room where he intended to sit in seclusion for 2 hours daily. The 3 mandali returned at 10:30 that morning, bringing 2 men about whom Baba stated, they have a whiff of the path. After he had bathed, fed, and given them new clothes, they were taken back.
Thank you, Marvin. Mayor Karan, are you reading today?
Yeah,
Okay.
after tea, Baba and the men drove to the temple in the jeep. Kaka, Gustaji, and Gani were to keep watch outside, and Eruch and Jalbai were sent back. Eruch and Jalbai were sent back to bring their meals. Baba and the Mandali's food was being prepared at Bindra house and was brought by Eruch in the jeep. Those on watch were ordered not to look toward the temple while Baba was in seclusion until he clapped. Baba spent an hour inside and afterwards walked back to Tube's bungalow with the men. Eruch and Jalbai arrived with the dinner, and the evening was spent in playing cards and talking about lighter matters. However, the next morning, 19 July, Baba's mood was not as congenial. He called Kaka, Eruch, and Ghani and complained, last night I could not sleep at all. Kaka kept his window open, thereby allowing gusts of wind to make all sorts of noise which disturbed me. Kaka has become careless and unmindful, knowing fully well known I never liked strong breezes, particularly when it is wet and cold outside. But he does not care and has caused me no end of trouble. Eros then received his share of criticism for choosing such a lousy bungalow, and Baba's tirade continued. When Baba later came downstairs, he looked sad, dejected, and weak. He stated, "It is my weakness not to control my anger at times, and anger in particular should be controlled during my fast and seclusion. The best and the worst part of it is that it is usually directed at those who serve and love me 100%. But age wondered, how can there be any weakness in perfection? It is a master's mercy and work to wipe out the sanskaras of his closed ones. What a divine pretext to say that it is his weakness." Eruch and Jalbai went into the city to bring mass while Baba was working with Ali Shah. They returned at 11:30 with the disappointing news that they had not found anyone who they thought was a mass. Baba was not happy and sent them back, telling them to bring the meals by 2 in the afternoon instead of the usual time of 4 o'clock. Baba then decided to do something unusual and give Ali Shah a bath, after which he sat with him for an hour. Eruch and Jalbai returned at about 2:30 with the food and a god-mad Muslim called Allah Baksh. Baba immediately started his work with him, giving him a bath, food, and clean clothes. Although Allah Baksh was not advanced, he was approaching the path and, like the others brought the day before, was in a state of hawa. Baba seemed pleased with the work done. Eruch and Jalbai went out again in search of Mas and returned at about 4 o'clock with Nanubai. Nanubai proved to be an amusing contact, though he too was not very advanced. He would reel off Urdu couplets without a pause in a very dramatic fashion. Baba ordered Gani to reply to him by quoting suitable Urdu couplets in rejoinder. Gani quoted from Hafiz and Shams Tabriz, but none who spoke so loudly and incessantly. Gani could not get a word in edgewise. As soon as Gani would start to say something, Nano would interrupt him and ramble on, often without meaning. Baba was highly amused and silently laughed a lot. Baba then gestured to Harris to put certain questions to him. Nanubai would answer spontaneously without thinking, giving bold, incisive replies. For instance, when it was asked, "Who is greater, Allah or Prophet Muhammad?" Nana replied, "Muhammad, of course." God goes begging to him with outstretched hands. By remembering Muhammad, you will have a daughter by night and a son by day. After half an hour of such conversing, Baba gave Nanubai a bath, some new clothes and sweets. Tea was served to all at 5:30 p.m. They reached prepared to take Nanubai back. It was suggested that since Baba was to go into seclusion for 3 days, beginning the next day, why not go out in the jeep for a ride as the weather was clear that evening? Baba was in an exceptionally good mood because of the finding of Nanubai and agreed. Yet, this pretext of taking a drive was in fact a means to accomplish his work. They left at about 6 o'clock, Eruch driving the jeep. After Nanubai was dropped off at his abode, they drove toward Bund Garden and then to Ferguson College and Deccan Gymkhana. Nearing Waria College, Baba noticed a sannyasi walking along the road. Baba directed us to get down and ascertain his background. I stopped the man, communicated with him for a while, and reported to Baba that he was a seeker of God who had been observing silence for the past 7 years while wandering throughout the country.
Thank you, Meher. I think this is a good place to stop. Page 27, 29. Let me stop the recording.